Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm working on another art journal spread today and unfortunately I did that thing where I thought I was recording and it turns out I wasn't. So I'm really sorry about that. But as you can see, the background is one that I've done before on other videos using rainbow colours. They're all Dina Wakley paints. Ruby, tangerine, lemon, lime, turquoise, blackberry, and then the one at the bottom is magenta. I've also used a Carabel Studio stencil with night coloured paint for those lines and dashes. And then this is a Tracy Scott stencil and I'm using carnation. I'm just adding some of those mandala shapes. You can see I'm adding three areas of stenciling initially. And then I'm going to start overlapping and adding some others in there too. This colour that I'm using next is Heather. I always want to call it lavender, I don't know why. And again another Tracy Scott stencil. And then I'm using mineral, so I'm keeping these bits of stenciling quite pale pastel colours really. So next I'm using some gel medium and I'm just slapping down some Dina Wakley collage paper that's got lots of words and quotes on it. I wanted to add some text into the page and this is a really quick way to do it. Then I'm just using some black gesso. The reason for that is because I didn't have any black acrylic paint at the time. But I do really like the black gesso because it does tend to dry quite matte. And I'm just painting some leggy ladies, I call them. Dina Wakley showed how to do this really simple style of figure on one of her demos. It is so easy. You should give it a try if you haven't had a go. You can't really go wrong, to be fair. And then I'm just adding the black around the border, around the edge of the page, just using the width of the brush as the guide for how wide it's going to be. There's the traditional cup of tea. Got to have a cup of tea when I'm journaling. It's kind of almost law, really. Then I'm using a neon Posca pen and just adding some little Posca pen hearts onto the figures. And then this is a stencil by Dina Wakley. I think it's called Bubbles or Circles, or Bubble Circles, something like that. And a blending tool and not too much paint on my brush. I didn't want these to be too opaque. So next it's these wonderful mark making stencils by Tim Holtz. I love these. These are my favourite when you're not really in a mark making place but you want to put some marks onto your page. It's such a brilliant way to do it. And I'm using different coloured inks rather than just black, just because I wanted the interest to be there but I didn't want it to be too in your face. So I'm using, I think, just a pink and an orange coloured ink pad to start off with. Then these little crosses are also from Tim Holtz and I am just using some black with those. Then this was where I was going to put my words on the left hand side and I just felt that the text was a little bit too obvious, so I'm just using a tiny bit of gesso and just smooshing it on with my finger. This is a foam stamp set by Tim Holtz. The reason I'm wearing gloves is if you've watched one of my previous videos where I've used this stamp set, you remember me saying how my fingers got completely covered in archival ink and I couldn't get it off for quite a long time. So, learning by my mistakes, I put some gloves on this time. Plus the fact my daughter is a nail technician and she does my nails for me, and I was a bit worried I might get in trouble. So there we go. So I'm just stamping my quote onto some collage tissue paper, and then when it's done I will cut it out and stick it on the page. The reason I'm using the collage tissue paper is that I wanted the background to still show through. Didn't really want to disappear any of this beautiful colourful background by sticking paper on there to write on. So the collage tissue paper works perfectly because it does go a little bit more translucent when it's glued down. So then I'm just using gel medium, gel matte medium and sticking these down. I have a couple of brushes that I only use for gel medium because eventually, over time, even though I do wash them, they do end up going very crusty. They're just cheap brushes. I think they're probably children's art brushes, so I don't use any of my nice brushes for the gel medium. Then I'm just using a white gel pen and I'm just adding some scribbly details onto some of those circles. And I thought I might outline the figures, but no, didn't like it. So there again, you see, baby wipe. If it's still wet and the acrylic paint underneath is dry, then you can wipe away your mistakes. So next I'm using a white ink pad, and this isn't an archival ink, I don't think, but it's quite an effective pad. It's just a cheap one, and just a text stamp, and I'm just stamping some white writing onto the border. Has the effect of just pushing it away into the background a little bit. And then I'm just doing a bit of my own mark making with the dots on the circles and scribbling around the edge of the border. Sometimes it is easier to turn your book round rather than stretching over. And adding more mark making here and there, just kind of going with the flow really and seeing how I felt, where I wanted to put things. So I've just added a few final bits of mark making onto the page, and you can see this is quite a bold page with the black images on the bright background, but really easy to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Here's the finished page. Thank you very much for watching.